in the beginning was the word. Well, I think in some ways prior to that in the beginning was the point. And from the point to get to another point, you have to draw a line. There's a transfer when you're drawing of your whole being in a way into that line that makes everyone's line individual. It's how things, become articulated, and it's not articulated by verbal description. It's the universal language, really, in a way of pictorial, at least. What's in a line is almost like a loaded question. You could go on and on. I look at them almost as bearing witness, to wherever I put them, and they're also windows, and then at the same time, aesthetically, it's sort of I love the different ways the lines cross. I worked at Haystack for 31 years. Yeah, I was the maintenance and then the facilities manager, which is a great job because, for me, I could work there and it's only an 8-month-a-year job. It gave me a lot of time to work in my studio. The scratch panels are layers and layers of colors on top of each other. And all the marks are made by scraping on it. And it's going through all these different layers of color. And I love that, the physicality of scraping. And it's also a process of discovery. You're always seeing new things coming up, and it also appeals to me in the sense of this, it's almost like a flurry of consciousness, or just this thing that the physicality of it is very interesting, and I love the results of it. Some, they come up almost looking jewel-like or something, or have a really beautiful appearance. Well, I first started doing art when I was, I went to Tufts University, and my last semester of my senior year, I took a painting course. But I never had the urge to just be painting or drawing all the time or anything. I was more of a reader than anything else. But then that painting course that I took just sort of clicked, and I really liked it. But at the same time, I felt the energy, but at the same time, I had such inhibitions and so much sort of feelings of I can't draw, I don't know what I'm doing or anything. It really took me a long time to sort of come around and start to feel that I could really make art and start drawing and everything, and feeling comfortable with it. I was doing it, but I was a little bit frustrated because I felt like it wasn't really where I wanted to be going. So I'd just gone to see a really good jazz show in Boston. I said, I got to really get, I want to change, So it was like March, and, it's winter time, and I'm walking around, and, I was noticing the snow melting and sort of noticing the forms of the snow melting. And it sort of made me think of taking ink and making forms. And it was sort of related to melting, seeing these melting forms. And so that's when I really started to concentrate really in the avenue that I've pretty much explored since then. And it's really just been one successive thing after another. And it's pretty much mostly improvised as I go along. The wire loops started first, or what those wire loops are, I call them, they're free-range sculpture, okay? And they, I started them basically, originally those were drawings. And those are a classic example of line. I liked the idea and I liked the way they looked on the shore, and later I adapted them using conduit so I could put up like a, 15-foot tall sculpture just in a couple of minutes just by doing it. So I like the fact that I could really make these sort of semi-monumental sculptures in places with not, and I like the fact that they were transitory, that they weren't permanently in the landscape. One of the things about that is nobody sees them much, except for my yard. So I will title them by the place, date, and time. So that sort of locates them in space. And that's sort of been an ongoing project. And I moved into, and I liked that shape that was just sort of a rectangular shape, but with curved lines on the corners. It just seemed to speak to me. And then I started doing ones with just straight 3/8" steel rod that they were 20 feet, and you could stick one end of the ground and make these beautiful arcs without, and then you'd take them out and they'd spring back, so you could carry them around and do other, and put them in different places. When I got done with school, it was like 73, and most of it, though, a lot of us at those times didn't want to have anything to do with going into corporate life or anything like that. And I wanted to do something with my hands, so I really ended up becoming a carpenter and working in the woods and things like that. So I did all sorts of stuff. So it worked well for Haystack because I was, I liked doing stuff, and I didn't mind the nitty-gritty things of maintenance, of running a septic system on the coast of edge of Maine, which had its moments, I'll tell you. But there was a lot of different people coming in from all over the country and also from overseas. And it was really a really stimulating place to be. I really have an affinity for ink. I love black ink, and I love what it does. Even in a two-dimensional space, and then you take it to 3 dimensions. I may do these sculptures, they're coated so that all the marks were black on a white surface after I seal wooled and sanded it down. And I call that series of sculptures cenotaphs, which are a memorial for those whose remains lie elsewhere. And then I had these ones they're black and they have lines and they're hollow. And I love the interior of it. You look in, it's this deep, dark, black interior. Don't pay attention too much to what everybody's saying about your work right away. You got to expect it. You got to expect it to grow and to change. I mean, here's speaking as someone who it took me 30 years before I started painting. Really, be open to new ideas and don't get too hung up in the whole archival thing. I mean, it's important in some ways about things on paper and things like that. But you can get really hung up on that kind of stuff too, you know. As I heard somebody said, let the curators take care of that stuff. I've been getting into doing these maze things like that painting there, which is sort of like a deconstructed Celtic knot. For me, the most interesting thing with this is the white spaces, because they look like fragments. But then at the same time, the shape of the black really hits you visually. I keep myself busy somehow. I'm not in here all the time. I can't be. I got too much other stuff to do, you know. But it's nice that I can be in here more since I retired 2 years ago at Haystack. So that's been good. But I'm not really retired well, obviously, retirement is sort of a joke. But, but that's what just keeps me going. I guess I can't say it's the money that I'm making off it, because it's not. It's, because I am terrible about pushing myself, but, oh well. I don't know. I just like to do it. I don't know what it is. It's just, it's the source of my joy, as they say. Maybe it's compulsive. I don't feel like a really compulsive person in this whole process, though. It's just sort of, I'll get up here and I'll do it. And luckily for me, I work quick. I can end up making a lot of stuff, and I'm starting to get swamped. As you can see, it's like ridiculous. You can look into that room, and then, I have this file cabinet. It's like 24 flat files, and it's chock full of stuff, and I'm going, what am I leaving my family?